from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manam kadam yam pesam chantam she dewa dang dewe gurdang dempa jorchi. Dugnal dang tonel gi gudang drawar jorchi. Dugnal me pe dewa dang mi drawar jorchi. Nei ring chak dang ni dang drawe tang nam la ne pa jo chi. Okay, thank you all very much for coming tonight, and thank people on YouTube for joining us. So we're continuing, and tonight we'll be able to finish the 24th chapter. And just as because we had to skip last week, so just to kind of bring things back into focus for us, I just want to give a little bit of a review of what we've been doing. So this particular chapter is significant because this is the first time that the Buddha, who's been referred to as the thus gone one, or the victorious one. In this chapter, he's in this particular part that we're working on right now, he's referred to as the victorious one. So they're referring to the Buddha, who was Siddhartha Gautama, who had been referred to in the book as the Bodhisattva. So now he's attained enlightenment, and now he's kind of getting assimilated into the role of being a living Buddha and what his work is going to be. And he's had this experience that is beyond anything that a human being would normally experience. And now he's having to bring his intellect together with his heart, his big mind and little mind, in sync with each other, so that he can begin to teach what it is to attain enlightenment, or the method to attain enlightenment. And that's the point of all of this, is that the Buddha Dharma, the teaching of the Buddha, is the teaching of a system, his system of how he attained enlightenment, which is to organize one's thoughts and behavior. As we are approaching our Buddha nature, our mind, our intellectual mind is opening up and changing. Our heart is opening up and changing, and we have to kind of reconcile how all this operates. So our thoughts, the way our thoughts work, have to be totally reflective of what our heart wisdom is, what our heart thoughts are. So the Buddha Dharma is the way in which he does this. So this chapter, again, is his first encounter with having to do that. So this is not, the Buddha Dharma is not a literal expression of an absolute reality. I'll say that again. It's not a literal expression of a absolute reality, because that is non-conceptual. To ordinary human beings, it makes no sense. We have no way to express it. However, we experience it. And then what we endeavor to do is to align our intellectual thoughts with our heart thoughts in ways in which it changes our behavior and so on, the way in which we operate. So what the Buddha Dharma is a point of view. It's a point of view of this phenomenal, temporary reality. this phenomenal temporal reality, a temporariness and so on, that is subject to all this misinterpretation and so on, misinformation and confusion. It's subject to interpretation and misinterpretation. So so the Buddha Dharma, through aligning our intellect, we go through this process of changing our behavior and so on, and constantly reinforcing that behavior, reinforcing those thoughts with the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is the fourth of the Four Noble Truths. And the Eightfold Path becomes the cause for the cessation, for the liberation of suffering. So it's the Eightfold Path that is critical in our being able to reconcile our daily behavior as an ordinary human being who now is on the threshold of becoming enlightened. So this chapter is helping us to see, well, here's how the Buddha did this. This is how the victorious one did this. So this whole entire play in full, this whole entire sutra is showing us from the very beginning when the Bodhisattva was not even incarnate, was as pure spirit, and then coming through to become the Buddha who became a teacher and so on. And all of this is symbolic. It's not literal, so we shouldn't think of this as these different gods and goddesses and all this kind of stuff. It's all allegory. It's all metaphor. And it's designed to help us to understand what it is to be a human being through the experience of being a human being. So I hope that makes some sense. So if we go to verse 24.111, or excuse me, chapter 24.111, verse 111. Are you there with us, Aliyah? Do you have that? Okay. Would you be able to read a page if as we come to it? Would you enjoy doing that? Okay, good. All right, then what we'll do, if you don't mind, I'll begin with 111, and then I'll read the next page. So what we do, Alea, is when we come to the end of a page, and if a verse is kind of split between, two pages, the reader will continue on and finish the verse on the next page, and then the next person will read. So I'll read the first page, and then Kunga, if you don't mind, if you'll read the second page, and then Zara, if you'll read the third page, and Alex, if you'll read the fourth page, and then Alea, if you'll read the fourth page or fifth page, and then if there's another one after that, there's pages after that, then we maintain that order. So the one thing I ask that's real important is that we imagine that we're reading to 8th grade students, to 8th graders, or maybe 8-year-olds. That's better to say it that way, to 8-year-olds. So please recite it slowly so that we can understand, and try and enunciate the words clearly and follow the punctuation as best you can so that people without the text can hear what it is that we're saying and make some sense out of it. So if we rush too fast, even though we have the text, sometimes it's hard to follow it. So it's important to intellectually take this in so that we can process it and hopefully to guide us to open our hearts. Okay, so I'll begin, and then any questions before we get going?
I just wanted to let Aaliyah know because I know it's the first time you're at 24.145 because you have yours will carry over from Alex's. So that's literally you're the verse you start at.
Say that again. She's at 145. I don't understand that. Why isn't she at 111?
No, that's where she starts reading. I just wanted to make sure she knew since it's her first time because there's a
Oh,
carry.
I see. Oh, I see. I see. I see. Because she doesn't have the pages that we have.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you for. Okay, I didn't realize that. All right. Very good. Thank you. Okay. So it says, at that time, the two brothers, Trapusa and Balika, with their caravan of merchants and carriages filled with riches, reached a grove of sal trees in full bloom. Instantly, through the great sage's radiance, the wheels sunk into the earth up to their axles. Seeing such a situation, the merchant caravan was terrified. Carrying swords, arrows, and spears, they inquired who was dwelling in the forest like a deer. They saw the victorious one, who was like the sun in a cloudless sky, and whose face was like an autumn moon. Without hostility or pride, they bowed down, wondering who he was. A deity said from the sky, he is a Buddha acting for the welfare of the world. For 7 days and nights, this embodiment of compassion has not consumed food or drink. If you want to assuage your own afflictions, feed this cultivated body and mind. When they heard that sweet speech, they bowed down to the victorious one and circumambulated him. Pleased, they decided with their companions to feed the victorious one. Monks, at that time, the herd of cows belonging to the merchants Trapusa and Balika were grazing at a neighboring village. There the cows were milked and yielded clarified butter, which the herdsman brought to the two merchants, Trapusa and Balika, saying, O my lords, please advise us. When we milked all your cows, they yielded clarified butter. Is this auspicious or not? Some priests, who were gluttonous by nature, said, it is inauspicious, so a grand offering of this butter should be made to the priests. Monks, at that time, however, a priest named Sikandi spoke. He had been a kinsman of the merchants Trapusa and Balika in a previous life. He had been reborn in the Brahma realm and now manifested among them in the form of young Brahman. He spoke the following verses to the merchants. In the past you made the aspiration. When the thus gone one reaches awakening, may he partake of our food and turn the wheel of Dharma.
This aspiration has now been fulfilled. The thus gone one who reached awakening should be offered this food. Once he has eaten, he will turn the wheel of Dharma. That your cows yielded clarified butter is very auspicious and occurred under an auspicious constellation. This is due to the meritorious actions of this great sage. Once Sankandi had inspired the merchants, he returned to his own abode. Trapusa and others were all elated. They combined without exception all the milk of 1,000 cows, collected the cream from the top, and respectfully prepared a meal. They cleaned, polished, and sanitized the jewel bowl called Moon, which cost 100,000 coins for just 1 ounce, then filled it to the brim with food. Carrying honey in the jewel bowl, they approached the trunk of the tree of liberation and said to the teacher, Venerable one, please accept and receive us. We beg that you eat this well-prepared meal. Out of compassion for the two brothers, and because he is aware of their previous intent to set out towards awakening, the teacher accepted and ate the food. Once he had eaten, he tossed the bowl far into the sky. A divine king called Subrahman retrieved the supreme jewel bowl and is still now performing worship with it in the Brahman realm together with his companions.
On that occasion, the thus gone one delighted the merchants Trapusa and Balika tremendously with these verses. May divine auspiciousness, which accomplishes aims and brings good fortune throughout the 10 directions, fulfill all your aims. May everything promptly be favorable. Like a garland around your neck, may there be glory at your right hand, may there be glory at your left hand, may there be glory surrounding you. May the merchants who pursue wealth and travel throughout the 10 directions attain great profit, and may that bring them happiness. Should you, for some reason, need to travel east, may the constellations in that direction protect you. Kritaka and Rohini, Margasira, Andhra and Punavarsu, Husya and Aslisa, these are the constellations in the east. May these 7 constellations, renowned world protectors, the gods that dwell in the east, fully protect you. Their lord and king is known as Dhritarashtra. May this lord of all Gandharvas, together with his son, protect you. May his many sons, wise and mighty, all 91 of them who are called Indra, protect you with health and well-being. In one area in the east, there are 80 goddesses, Jayanti and Vijayanti, Siddhartha, and Aparajita.
Alex, you're muted.
Nandatara and Nandisena, Nandini and Nandavartani. May they especially protect you with wealth and well-being. In quarter in the east, there is a memorial called Kapala, inhabited and known by victorious ones, protector worthy ones. May they especially protect you with wealth and well-being. May the quarters be safe for you. May you not incur evil. May you be protected by all deities. And may you return with great profit. Should you, for some reason, have to travel to the south, may the constellations in that directions protect you. Magha and also the 2 Falguni, Hasta and Chitra, the 5th, along with Swatish and Vishakha, are in the south. Those 7 constellations, renowned world protectors, dwell in the southern quarter. May they protect you. Their lord and king is called Virudhaka. May that lord of all Kumbhandas, together with the lord of death, protect you. May his many sons, wise and mighty, all 91 of whom are called Indra, especially protect you with health and well-being. In one section of the south, there are 8 goddesses, Shriyamati and Yasamari, Yasaprapta and Yashodhara,
Sutita and Supatrama, Suprabuddha and Sukhayuha, may they protect you with health and well-being. In a section of the south in a Padma memorial, continually shining with brilliance, always illuminating all, may it too especially protect you with health and well-being. May the quarters be safe for you. May you not incur evil. May all the deities protect you, and may you return with great profit. Should you, for some reason, need to travel west, may the constellations that dwell in that direction protect you. Anuradha and Jishata, Mula and Durbiryata, Asadas, Abhijit, and Shravana, these are the 7. These 7 constellations, renowned world protectors, dwell in the west, and may they always protect you. Their lord and king is known as Paksha. May that lord of all Nagas, together with Varuna, protect you. May his many sons, wise and mighty, all 91 of whom are called Indra, especially protect you with health and well-being. In a section of the west, there are 8 goddesses, Alambusha and Misrakeshi, Pundrarika, and Aruna.
Thank you. Ekadasha, Navanamika, Sita, Krishna, Japadi, may they especially protect you with health and well-being. In a section of the west, there is a mountain called Astamga. The sun and moon also reside there. May that mountain give you wealth and protect you with health and well-being. May the quarters be safe for you. May you not incur evil. May you be protected by all deities, and may you return wealthy. If for some reason you should travel to the north, may the constellations in that direction protect you. There are 7, Dhanahista, Satabhista, the pair of Pura Aparana and Uttara Apara, Ravati and Ashvini and Bharani. Those 7 constellations, renowned worldly protectors, reside in the north. May they always protect you. Their lord and king is Kubera, born by men. May this lord of all Yaksas, together with Manibhadra, protect you. May his many sons, wise and mighty, all 91 of whom are called Indra, especially protect you with health and well-being. In a section of the north, there are 8 goddesses, Iladevi and Suradevi, Prithvi, and Padmavati.
Maharaja, Asa, Sarada, and Madhusiri. May they especially protect you with health and well-being. In a section of the north is Mount Gandhamadana. It is the abode of all the Yaksas and Bhuttas. How many peaks it is pleasant to behold. May it too protect you with health and well-being. May the quarters be safe for you. May you not incur evil. May all deities protect you, and may you return wealthy. The 28 constellations, 7 dwelling in each of the 4 directions, the 32 goddesses, 8 dwelling in each of the 4 directions, the 8 renunciants, the 8 priests, the 8 towns through the lands, and the 8 gods, together with their sakras, may they all protect you. May you have good fortune going. May you have good fortune returning. May you have the good fortune of beholding your kinfolk. May you have the good fortune of being beheld by your kinfolk. Lovingly cared for by numerous yaksas with their sakras, and by the worthy ones, may you travel happily everywhere and obtain the auspicious nectar. Always lovingly protected by Brahma and Vasava, and by those free of outflows whose minds are liberated, and also by the Nagas and Yaksas. May your lives be preserved for 100 autumns. The peerless guide, Lord of the world, then lauded their offerings as fortuitous, saying, through this virtuous deed, you will become victorious ones, known as Madhusambhava.
This was the first prophecy made by the victorious one of the guide of the world. This infinitely many bodhisattvas that were prophesied later cannot possibly turn back from awakening. When they heard the victorious one's prophecy, the 2 brothers were elated and supremely pleased. Together with their companions, they went for refuge in the Buddha and the Dharma. This concludes the 24th chapter on Trapusa and Baliki.
Very good, thank you. So once again, this chapter is the beginning of the Buddha creating the Sangha. The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. We've all heard that. The Sangha is the community. And these 2 merchants Excuse me a second. I want to. Trapusa and Balika are the first lay converts to Buddhism, which even before he meets his five friends who were ascetics, so they were part of the monkdom, if you will. But these two merchants were the first two lay people to be converted by the Buddha into the Dharma, into the Dharma teachings, and so on. So that's why this is so important. And this chapter points out the importance of eating, that they were offering food as lay people to the victorious one. And he's now accepting that he's part of the human realm again. But he's part of the human realm as an enlightened being. That he realizes, and it's his work now to present that to the world so that they can respect what he's been able to accomplish and follow his instructions so that they too may be liberated from their suffering and so on. So the point of his accepting food, and then the point of all these astrological galaxies and so on, these extraworldly beings and these gods and goddesses accepting the victorious one, is using the prevalent philosophy of the time, the religion of the time, to be able to say, yes, they too are validating what the victorious one, what the Buddha is, what he represents, who he is, and that his teaching is to enable everyone, to give them the pathway to be able to attain that same level. So, Kunga, what do you think about this?
Well, that's an interesting story. I didn't know about those two figures, those two lay people becoming the first lay people, disciples. I think that was pretty interesting. I was to read that. And yeah, I agree. I think that all the gods and all the different constellations being mentioned are a way to make Buddhism into a giant umbrella that all those local beliefs that existed before the Buddha could be included within. So it didn't, I think it's a very respectful way of bringing, a philosophy to a new audience. We're not gonna say that all your beliefs are invalid. We're just going to say that all your beliefs can be included within this philosophy. You may have been praying to these different constellations or these different gods for different reasons, but now I'm presenting you a philosophy that even these gods would agree with and follow, and so you can follow it as well and still keep your alignment with your previous studies. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Zara, what comment do you have about this?
I really like how you just really concisely translated that from like what's happening for him at like going from this prince to he's coming out of this process, and you really explaining like he's left the aesthetics, but this is like his first contact with him realizing, oh, now I have a responsibility to teach. Like it's all kind of coming together. This is like ground zero for him, like making that. And so I understand the significance of this chapter in that way, because why it was important, why those two brothers are important, and what they symbolically represent is him accepting his new mission as a human being and what he's just converted to. So that was really nice the way you just laid that out for us. And then relative to just the significance of the chapter any additional comments. I mean, I don't really have anything extraordinary to add. Honestly, I don't want to look at questions. I feel like it's a succinct reading and you've given enough guidance and so I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Alex, what comments do you have?
Well, I noticed the interesting verse or line here that says that, like, why did Buddha accept this offering from those, from those two merchants?
What verse are you on?
I'm just trying to find it. Yeah, it's in the very beginning. Here, no, 24, 1 to 5.
Okay. 1, 2,
24,
5.
1, yes,
Okay.
24, 1 to 5. So you see, like, he didn't really need to eat. I mean, he could be without food for a while still. But you see, out of compassion for the two brothers, and because he was aware of their previous intent, which is, you read earlier in 24, 118, the intent was, when the Dasgan one reaches awakening, may we partake of our food and turn the wheel of the Dharma. So they made in the past aspiration to be part of turning the wheel of the Dharma. So it's like their first contribution to spreading the Dharma, basically, giving him a little more energy and substance to continue to now spread the teachings to everybody. So kind of like also to me, it's like, as we say, it takes a village. It takes a village to do something worthy. So Buddha is like building a community right there. Like accepting these two merchants and connecting them to the Dharma, and enabling himself to spread the Dharma and inspire. And it's also interesting that, like, the merchants are not here are viewed as something negative. Like, they they are blessed with a lot of fortune, with a lot of good health, good well-being, a lot of protection. So I think in many cultures, merchants are kind of looked down. But I think this is also interesting that Buddha, like, tries to elevate everybody in this around him, gods and merchants all together.
Very good.
These
Thank
are
you.
the thoughts. And then like I mean, maybe somebody can elaborate on it. I'll just see a lot of kind of not so much encouragement, assurance to the practitioner that, don't worry, there is a lot of protection and support you have. There is a lot of challenges from Mara and everybody, but then there is also a lot of protection and support from all corners of the world that's surrounding us. So we are in the village of all these gods and goddesses. and that's assuring.
Well, that's very good. Thank you. Aaliyah, what comments would you like to make about this section?
Yeah, so I guess I didn't get a chance to read like the entire thing or like hear the entire thing, but it sounds like I guess Buddha was meditating under a tree for 7 days when the merchant brothers ended up kind of getting to his location. And I thought it was interesting that you know, they were so impressed by the Buddha and his presence that they, gave him offerings, it sounds like. And then I guess one of the brothers' name changed to the Madhusam Baba. And I think it just kind of highlights the significance of like his support, um, of like the Buddhist support, like early on in the community, and underscores like the Buddha's compassion and guiding all beings towards enlightenment. Um, and I can relate it to like Ayurveda, being in school for that, which is, like the science of life and like science of ourselves, and essentially like the path of enlightenment and getting there and kind of trying to do your dharma, figure out your purpose so that you kind of can break the cycle of the like birth and death essentially. So I think this really resonated with me in terms of essentially like a stranger kind of coming to the Buddha, and the Buddha, saying to him, "Hey, like you're going to be on the path of enlightenment," and like, guiding him and his brother towards that path. So I think just in general, like just like this group does, like Zara has done for me, like, the guidance and like getting to that path of enlightenment, and getting on the path, staying on the path, and then trying to break that birth death cycle. So, yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah, I think, I think you all make really good points. And, he's giving access to the Dharma, to his teaching, by bringing all these people in. He's not excluding anybody, he's bringing them in. And these people are very fortunate people, particularly the merchants, because almost everybody else in this section that we're reading are all gods and goddesses and so on like that, and referring to the constellations, all these celestial bodies and so on. So I think Alex was very good in pointing out that this whole world, as we see it, as we experience it and everything, it's not all negative. There's a lot of positive things that happen and so on, and the positivity here is being recognized by the victorious one in the case of the two merchants, and he's giving his compassion. He's offering them compassion by letting them, help him and so on. So I think that's a really great point. Then and that that all paths and that merchants can be considered to be greedy and so on like that, but at the same time here were noble merchants who were worthy of meeting the Buddha and so on like that. So I think that's a really good point.
Oh, may I add something?
Certainly.
Well, looking a little more in how it all starting, these are not like really angel kind of merchants. If you notice, like, what were they carrying? They're carrying swords and arrows and spears. They are tough people. They're tough
Gun
people. They're
runners.
not.
They're gun runners.
They are like sellers of weapons of mass destruction. So and they were like turned around into these benefactors, by the presence of the Buddha.
That's
from what I see here.
That's very
So,
good.
right? That's another thing I noticed.
Good observation. I have to make a confession. because, this past couple of weeks, I've kind of been interrupted a little bit, and my stream of consciousness has kind of drifted away, from this book and everything. So as I was preparing, earlier today to, be talking about this today, I was reading things and things were a little bit fuzzy for me. So I said, you know what? Let me see what AI can help me with. And I posed a question to AI. And I got on my phone, I've got Gemini.
Oh, I have that too.
And I said, let's see what Gemini can do with this. And it gave me some very, very good way of being able to put this together. So part of what I said today was from the AI. It was stuff that I had thought about to some degree. Maybe AI did a better job of it to help me to bring it together. But my point in bringing this out to you is that there's a lot of help that we have. And that was one of the things that AI was saying, Gemini was saying. It's saying, look, I don't know about this specific verses, because I asked it to give me, commentary on these specific verses. So I can't do that. He said, but here are some suggestions where you can do some follow-up on your own, which I really like, about AI. AI is saying, look, I don't know everything, but here's some suggestions for you to do some more research. And then as you do more research, he didn't say this, but as you do more research, and it goes into print, then somebody loads it into AI, and it becomes part of their database. So AI is watching us, in other words, and processing all the stuff that we're putting forth. So I think that's really great. I have not been a strong proponent of AI up until this past year or so, because I'm finding that, as a librarian, if you will, AI is fantastic. So it aids us and so on in many ways. So I encourage everybody, to, test it out, to use it on your own, and not to just, rely on these couple of hours that we get together once a week to be able to talk about these things. But if you can carve out a little bit more time on your own and ask AI questions, and because we're not all together, and maybe that'll help. So let me give you a few of the bullet points, if you don't mind, of what AI gave me today. So it says, here are the key events that are in this chapter. The key events are that this is post-enlightenment bliss. The victorious one, the Buddha, is experiencing post-enlightenment bliss. How it is that he is going to interact with the world, and how this bliss is arising because of that, or as a result of that, or he's creating the bliss, he's fomenting the bliss. And the key events of taking the offerings from the gods, which is validating, the gods are supporting. It's not that the gods are saying, oh no, this guy is not true or anything like that. The gods are saying, yes, this is the Buddha, the enlightened one, the thus gone one, is real. This is wonderful. And the two merchants are the first lay merchants, and the acceptance of food is his return to the ordinary world. So those were key points that AI was pointing out. Then the next thing were the themes. The themes that AI was pointing out was the bliss of liberation. How it is that the Buddha is now in this mode of being liberated, free from suffering, but yet engaging with suffering beings, with the suffering world, in order to help it to realize its situation. So this bliss of liberation. the importance of reverence. That in all of this, because the gods, because of the goddesses, because of the constellations, because of the merchants and everything, this point of reverence, to have, that we have this system, and to be reverent of that system, to be respectful of that system. And I think that's really important because, we tend to, not want to bow and not, to say namaste or whatever, to beings, in America, that's one of the things that happens, and I see it with Asians all the time. I was just with a bunch of Hindus and from India and Nepal for the past week. And it was amazing how many of the 20-somethings and the 30-somethings that I was with, as soon as I started talking about spirituality and the conversations, they would turn away. They would go away.
Mm-hmm.
The parents would be interested, but the younger ones weren't even interested. There's no reverence. There's no sense of wow, there's something there, and I should at least listen to it and pay respect to it. So this is pointing out the importance of reverence. And then the next was the role of lay practitioners, to be able to take in the teachings and to be able to make it available to others. If you have the resources, it's one thing, part of the practice of offering is that you're creating the facilities for the Dharma to be taught. You're creating the books. You're passing the books around to create the facility, to create the buildings for people to be able to come together to receive the teachings, the ability to be able to make offerings to the teachers, to the lamas and so on, because they are the ones who are bringing this to us. They are the incarnate Buddha, to whatever degree they can be, they're bringing it to us. They're more important to us in many ways than the Buddha himself, because that Buddha's gone. But when we look at our teachers as emanations of the Buddha, that's a powerful thing. So the offerings we make, in terms of finances and books and so on like that. But the greatest offering that we make is the offering of practice, that we are dedicating the practice for the benefit of the enlightenment of all other beings. That they're the ones who need it. We don't need to offer it to our teachers. We don't need to offer it to the Buddha. They're already enlightened, but we're offering it to all the other beings in their name. In their name, honoring them is a really wonderful thing. So this role of lay practitioners, what they are doing in the process of bringing the Dharma forward, and this was the beginning of the Sangha, the beginning of the community, that the Buddha, the victorious one, was beginning to coalesce a Sangha, coming around, and these lay practitioners were the first, and then came his 5 friends who became his first 5 disciples. And they themselves became enlightened, and they themselves were sent out by the Buddha to go and reach people that he was unable to reach, in more far-flung places of North India and so on like that. So what do you think about that?
Lance, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry, you want to speak? Go right ahead.
I know, Lance, you've read the Bhagavad Gita. I wondered how many else has Alex Kunga, have you read the Bhagavad Gita as well?
I read some chapters, definitely.
Kunga, have you already read that one?
Is that the one where takes place right before a big battle?
Yes, the
Yeah.
Maharaj.
Okay,
Arjuna.
it's been years though, a long time ago.
And Aaliyah, you probably have, right? The Bhagavad Gita. And Lance, listening to you, the scriptures from there, because that's influenced obviously by Hinduism, it talks about the greatest in resolving your karma, the greatest action you should take is to pass, if you have knowledge of the scriptures, teachings, like you can do different things like service or love, but it's like that's the greatest action back to the universe is to spread, if you know about scriptures or teachings, is to spread it forward. So it's very, like what you're saying very much resonates in that way. And I was thinking about that as you were talking. And another idea, and because this is very much a blueprint for us, like all the readings we've been doing are teaching us the source material. I'm thinking more practically, even for us, those of you, if you're open to talking about your own spiritual awakening, right? Because we're all bodhisattvas, we're all going on a similar journey that he's gone on, right? Like we're awakening, and what's our sangha, what's our community? And I'm thinking about that as well in reading this chapter, like how it resonates, like you said, lay person, or they call them householders and like the Bhagavad Gita, but basically like what is our responsibility as we awaken, right? Like in Christianity, they have this phrase like born again. And now I understand what that means. Like you're born into your spiritual self, your spiritual body. And so that's what's just happened to him. He's born again with a different, and so for all of us as lay people, how does that feel? Because we're not monastic. We're not withdrawing from all the sensory distractions. We're in it. And what is our song? What does that look like for us? Like our sangha may not be like this, maybe the kids around us, the community, the older people, but what does that really functionally look like? You know, boots on the ground in a Western culture. Those are things I think about as really growth and moving forward with the privilege. Like there's moments, Lance, where I'm like, we are so blessed to have this content. Like just like you're a blessing to us, your teacher was a blessing to even understand this is so amazing, to get access to even to this book that you spent so much time beautifully putting together for us. But I don't know, like I think about that, right? I wonder if people contemplate like a moment and just be like, I'm really fortunate to understand I can stop my suffering, my birth. However, I can also empower other people in small ways, like by smiling or by having a kid write a postcard or donating Girl Scout cookies. Like I'm thinking about practical application of what it means to be born into your spiritual self if you're not in a monastic community or even just your strict sangha, right? Like this, like we're all head on into the spiritual realm, but your neighbors, like that, those are things I'm thinking about relative to this chapter as we awaken. Because this can be very overwhelming if you know, like when you come into it, and how do you start out small? Those are just ideas I had because I'm thinking you've referenced the word layperson, which is really what this functionally is. And I'm thinking, how do we come into this as lay people wanting to positively impact other lay people? So that's just my ideas.
That's great. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. Would anybody else like to comment on this feature of lay people and or the structure of having AI help us navigate through the structure of the sutra?
Well, I actually did look it up on ChatGPT, like what this chapter was about, and and so I was like shaking your head, like that's where I got the information to give my response. Then it basically just says, chapter 24 narrates the encounter between the Buddha and two merchant brothers. Shortly after his enlightenment, after attaining perfect and complete awakening, the Buddha spent 7 days in deep meditation under the Bodhi tree. During this period, various divine beings approached and honored him. Following these 7 days, the merchant brothers, traveling with a caravan of 500 carts, arrived at the Buddha's location. Moved by his presence, they offered him alms, which he accepted. And in gratitude, the Buddha delivered verses blessing them and prophesied their future attainment of Buddhahood under the name of the Madhusambhava. And the
Right.
chapter highlights the significance of lay supporters in early Buddhist community and underscores the Buddha's compassion in guiding all beings towards enlightenment. So, yeah, and I think to other people's point, like, everyone else's path towards enlightenment, what that looks like and what it's been like. And a lot of gratitude to you for, holding like a space like this for everyone to be able to be guided and have this opportunity. So,
Well, thank you. Yes, that's great. Great observation. And yes, and so these AI things are lining up, because the one I used was a little bit different, I think, but it's really great.
Lance, I had a functional question for you, and Kunga maybe is you as well. When you were going through this process of becoming more into your spiritual identity, did you naturally find people started recognizing you as more of a spiritual, like where, like without you advertising, right? Did they feel a sense of calmness around you, like where your presence brought forth like you can be around someone and they agitate the group, but that you have certain people that come in and they're like just the power of their energy is like calming. Did anyone of you experience like people naturally would come to you for advice, like people started trusting you or people just started confiding in you and without using any words or without you advertising, people just felt a sense of safe security, loyalty, and then because that's a privilege, right? But also because your ego can get amok. But I'm just curious if you have any anecdotes through your own awakenings, like how like that's a great responsibility and privilege. You have to be careful with that because you can be prideful. It can become like this thing. Um, Kunga or Lance, I know I would have asked Bernie, but he's not with us yet from his Spanish class. So I'd love to hear from either one of you.
Cargo, please comment.
Um, no. Um, um, I guess when I started to develop my spiritual life in more of a community, like I think I started it at work. I started to offer like a group for people who are interested to get together for meditation. Um, and then when we moved that to like out into the community and we ended up having a meditation group at the library. Um, I don't know why people were inspired to come to the group. I don't think I think the beginning people were people who knew me. Um, and but I think they also had an interest in Buddhism and they were just maybe looking for some more guidance on how to practice it. Um, I don't, I don't think anybody ever said that I seemed wise or anything like that. Um, um, yeah, I don't know. That hasn't been my experience. I think it's more like it's along the lines of when I became ready to share my spiritual journey and more invite others to kind of share it, that there just seemed to be people around who had a common interest and they sort of like organically came together and we started to practice together. Um, and then when I changed from that meditation group here in St. Joe and I started to attend the Buddhist temple in Grand Rapids, it just seemed like what the temple was needing as far as from me as a Buddhist was just just seemed to be the right person at the right time. We just sort of fit together. Their needs and my needs fit together well. Um, and yeah, I don't know how to describe it. But it didn't seem like what you were describing as far as like people seeking me out or anything because they thought I was wise. Thank you.
Thank you. Without trying to be, show signs of pride or conceit or anything like that, um, one of the things that, when we do our prayers, we talk about not to be reborn as a Shravaka or a Pratyeka Buddha. A Shravaka is a very high scholar, one who has achieved a great level of meditation, one who is a yogi, and so on. But it's implied that they're doing it selfishly for themselves and not necessarily for others. So we don't want to be born as a Shravaka because we don't want to be selfish about whatever enlightenment we were able to attain and so on. The Pratyeka Buddha is the same as the Arhat, as the same as the Shravaka, but the Pratyeka Buddha is very independent and doesn't want to share where he got his, how he got his enlightenment or how he got his knowledge, who his teachers were, or anything like that. And even he doesn't even want to share the teachings. That the Pratyeka Buddha will remain by themselves because if there's a maybe there's a subliminal fear that because they're not perfect, they realize that they don't want to engage with the villagers because they'll be revealed as being not true Buddhas. So as they're alone, they can kind of hide in their pridefulness, if you will, and think, "Oh, I'm so great! I'm such a great meditator," and so on like that. For myself, I've always been out front and of helping people and at work and things like that, and I've had people, when they found out that I was a Buddhist or something, they said, "Oh, that's why I like you." Something like that. And I don't say it with any hubris or anything like that. I'm just saying that, it is part of the part of being on the path. And this is what the Buddha himself, what we're reading now, is his dealing with that, how to deal with that and not show any hubris in the process. But at the same time, to be able to declare, the achievement that he has, not so much by saying, "This is who I am and you should follow me." It's more just by the deeds that he does, the words that he brings out, the teachings that he brings to us and everything. Through those things, it will be revealed, what you've been able to accomplish and what gifts you have for other people and so on like that.
Zara, I make a answer for you.
Okay.
Sure.
I don't know why people sometimes stop me and totally random people and talking to me on the bus. But that was long before I start serious practice of Buddhism. I definitely try to learn about meditation and yoga and all that. But sometimes people do that. Yes, they totally puzzle me. Like random people talk to me in the elevator or on the train, and sometimes I don't know what to do, how to deal with that. So, but I try to be acceptable, accepting,
I, accessible, accessible.
accepting.
Oh, accepting of other people.
Yes, and I listen to them. I ask questions.
Right.
But yeah, that happens. I don't, and not that I ever wanted that.
So
But
let me turn the question around to Zara and ask her the question. In these past few years and everything, and the changes you've been going through, have other people said things to you, or has your role with other people changed?
Yeah, I'm finding that it's easier for me to accept the blessing of this journey. And one of the things that, and I've always lived, because I'm a big supporter of Mohandas Gandhi, just I like everything he represented. I know he wasn't a perfect person, but I do admire his work. I am a big advocate of just do your dharma, do your action, and then let people come to you. That's always been my mindset. So through body, speech, and mind, through the words, through if you're exercising, you're eating healthy, or how you communicate through conflict, whatever the action is. And what I found is people, I think, have seen a shift in me in the last couple of years because I was always easy to anger or always easy, quick. Now people will like ask me how I'm navigating through things and come to me, whether it's a work issue, and I'm able to actually talk through it using like karma, the principles that we're learning without saying, "Oh, this is from my Buddhist teachings or the sutras. I'm at, actually to talk through now through all of the years you've been with me and say, draw the analogies from Christian scriptures, Jewish scriptures, or Muslim, and just say, hey, this is all over from west to east. And if you smile at someone, they'll smile back. If you cuss someone out, expect to be cussed out. So I'm saying, like, we're going through some work stuff now at the government stuff, and I've got colleagues saying like they're so angry. So divisive speech, right? So talk about right speech, and they're like, how are you remaining so calm? Because I'm like, this too shall pass. So I'm literally recognizing, I'm able to pull in that and recognize what right speech is, and that if you manifest that, that's what you're attracting towards you. The intentionality is I need to remain calm so that I can promote that. That's in general collective well-being, welfare, is if I show calmness, maybe that'll impact one other person, right? And that'll impact 7 other people. And I've recognized I have a responsibility by the blessings of all of this connection to take on that torch. It's part of my dharma. It's part of Aaliyah's dharma, your dharma. We have to be a flashlight, whether we wanted to or not. In some previous lifetime, this is part of our spiritual DNA. It's ingrained in our consciousness that we wanted this journey. So we have to embrace it. If we run from it, our karma will force it back into our pathway at some point. So it's better just to turn around and face it and be like, I accept my journey. So to answer your question more succinctly, yes, and I haven't forced it. It's happened over several years, and I just let it happen. I don't advertise it. If someone says, hey, I'm dealing with this relationship breakup or this thing at work, how would you deal with this? And I literally just apply the principles of karma and the 4 thoughts to turn. I'm like, hey, like, do you know, like, literally the precepts, just simple. Like, do you want someone to do that to you? No, then don't do it to them. Right? So very practical advice without getting super teachy and like what you said before, we have a responsibility to share the Dharma in a way that's accessible. We shouldn't be stingy with how we know, like, cause and effect. Even my brother is dealing with some stuff, and he's frustrated because he works for the government and all the stuff that's happened because of the administration change. He was so angry last week. And I literally texted you got it. Like, I had to help talk him through it because he's like, what am I supposed to do? He was so angry, and it's so bad for you to be so angry. But that would have been hard for me. Like 5 years ago, I would have gotten angry with him. And now I was like, we just got to remain calm. I said, you got to work through this. This is a lesson. If you're suffering, it's because there's a lesson. I said, anyone who's suffering, there's something you haven't learned yet. I said, if I'm suffering, there's a lesson I haven't learned yet. So I literally thank you for asking the question too, Lance. I appreciate you allowing me to talk about that because that's naturally unfolded. Aaliyah, I feel like you also, I've known Aaliyah, and I feel like you also have that about you as well, naturally. I think it's part of your dharma as well. Like, and I think Leah, you all are just like very graceful and just, I think you have a natural way about how you spread the dharma and from your heart as well. So, and you're also obviously in a helping profession. You're a nurse, so you're doing it every day. But I think in your natural day to day, I think you're one of the most positive people I've ever seen. Like, you see the silver lining in everything, and your words as speech, as an action, your verbal language is so beautiful. So,
Yeah, I'd like to hear what Leah has to say. But Leah, can you answer the question? How has your spirituality changed, and do people recognize it?
Yeah, it's interesting that Zara brought that up because I really feel like I know like the Zen Zara. I didn't know the Zara before this. So, but she's talked to me about that before. And I think like I kind of am following in her footsteps, and like she's kind of been my role model in a lot of ways because it's like I didn't realize like I go to her when I'm, my anxiety is heightened or like something's going on or like it's bubbling up or I think it's the end of the world. And she's really helped talk me through things because she has gone through this practice and she knows what it is to come out on the other end. And so because I've been on a spiritual path and it is like part of my birth chart and getting your Jyotish chart read and kind of knowing like what your dharma and your purpose is and trying to kind of stay on that path and do those things. Or, if you try to get off the path, you have to come back because that free will necessarily isn't there. Like you may try, but it's still going to be like, okay, this is what you got to do. And so to that point, a lot of my friends who know that I'm in this program, I actually met up with a few of them, I think a couple of months or last month. And they're like, wow, you've really like changed. Like you seem just real calm and like chill. And I was like, there's a lot to be said about surrendering. Like just being like, this is my life. This is how it is, good, bad, ugly. Just take it with equanimity. So I think through my studies and my understanding, like that's kind of helped. And I have a lot of anxiety in general. And I think that's just helped reduce so much of it. Just knowing I am where I'm supposed to be. This is my path. This is my journey. This is my place. Like good, bad, and ugly. It's all just for me. Like it's made for me and I have to go through this. So, and like you said, like I've tried to actually get out of nursing before, but it's brought me back to this is your path. This is your journey. You need to be an Ayurveda. You're on a spiritual enlightening path. And I actually, too, everyone can do this. You can actually put your birth date, time, and location into Chat GPT or even Gemini, and it literally will generate your chart. So I generated mine on my own, and I was like, oh, interesting. I did my mom's and I did my daughter's. So I did my mom's yesterday, I did my daughter's just now. And it's just very interesting to see, like, there's definitely apps that you can use and like Jyotish chart generators to kind of see where your planets are. But it's helped me to know myself better and more and accept those things, health, career, finance, relationships, spirituality. Like it's just all kind of
How do you think that works? Why does that work? What is it? What is the astrology? What is it using as its source of wisdom?
Yeah. So it's using the planets and it's using astrology, and like that alignment of the planets dictates the type
But
of
deeper than that.
well, it's a journey of the soul, right? So the soul born on that day and that time in that location.
All right. Let's look at it this way. If the planets and so on, the planets are what? The planets are matter, right? Right? And
Yeah.
if you can get the planets to move anything, any object like that, to move at twice the speed of light, what's released?
Energy.
Energy.
Okay.
E equals mc squared.
That's right.
And so astrology is really a way of being able to personify energy for us, to help us. It's another tool for
That's
us to recognize the energy of Mars, the energy of Venus, of Jupiter, etc., all the different stars, plus all the different signs, which are the galaxies.
Yep.
And all these kind of things to put it into a context that we can begin to understand or feel or resonate with the energy that's everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think that the astrology works.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I didn't you're absolutely right. When you said that and elaborated on it and took it like deeper into those layers, it's actually one of the lecture notes I was typing up for class before this call. And that's exactly what it talks about, and it's nice hearing it being put in perspective, because you're absolutely right. We are made up of those energies of like the planets, the stars, the galaxies, and those alignments really dictate like our energies, like you said.
Yeah, so it's a snapshot when we're born. And to take a snapshot, it's got to be a broader snapshot of when we're conceived.
Correct. Yeah.
To go back and think, well, talk to your mother, find out, well, was I born on time, early, late, and can you at least get a little fuzzier bit of a picture, but some picture nevertheless of what it was that energy was coming together of your father and your mother, and then your spirit coming together with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Lance, I didn't realize how much you knew about the astrology stuff. So let me ask you relative to, which is cool, because now I want to do Chat GPT for his birthday. I have his birthday, so we can do that for him privately, Aaliyah. So here's the question for you, Lance. When our spirit leaves our vessel and then we're in Bardo, aren't we hypothetically where our consciousness departs the vessel or the body we're in now? Like that's why like we want to die with those thoughts ingrained, those positive thoughts, the four thoughts. Um, aren't we at that point waiting if we're on that right journey for the best circumstance between a mother and father conception that will help us continue to up level where we left off, basically stepping out where we left and continuing hopefully to move upward, like up the journey. Do you know anything about that? Like you're
Well, a
waiting for
little bit. I was an astrologer. I used to teach astrology. Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, 40 years ago.
Wow, Aaliyah, we should have a private consult.
Totally. Yeah.
And the Bardo Total is what you were just explaining, in terms of understanding the Bardos, the intermediate states that we're in. There's 6 intermediate states, and how it is that that energy is moving through those states and so on. So it's another tool. It's another tool. Is it absolute? Is it an absolute tool? No, it is a relative tool because we are relative beings, and we're trying to understand through being a human being, everything that we can, but we have to take it all with a level of investigation and then a level of letting it go and developing our own energy with it, that we become the energy and we flow through it without any conscious thought. The consciousness of space, the consciousness of energy, however you want to express that we become that. And that's the freedom that we talk about.
Thank you, Lance. Aaliyah, I feel like everybody on tonight's call gets a free chat GPT session with you. For their Jyotish reading.
Yeah, Lance is obviously the master at like he's qualified, but I can read, so more than happy to do that.
Well, let me bring it back just for a little bit. We can investigate some more conversation, but I want to, bring this chapter, to some points of information here. So what this chapter represents are these points that the Gemini pointed out to me, was that the symbolic representations that we use. So it's, this whole sutra, everything, all Buddhism is filled with symbolic representations, because all this stuff is just illusory anyway. Our life is illusory. It's all fabricated within our minds. And we're having these conversations and we're agreeing on things because, we can all conceptualize to some degree, what we're each contributing to the conversation. So we're following the same symbolism. So that's one of the points. Another one is the auspiciousness and blessings. So auspiciousness is when there's a convergence of energy, and certain things come together and it becomes auspicious. Here we are, we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people having this conversation, and because of this conversation, it's become very, very auspicious because of the input that we're all putting into it, whether we're speaking or not, that our energy, we're listening to it and we're thinking about it, and it's all coming together. So there's an auspiciousness of that. And the blessings are the absorption, if you will, of negativity, or the transformation of negativity into positivity. The blessings. You may be filled with all kinds of negative confusion and everything, and you go to somebody, a lama or somebody, or your priest or whatever you want to call it, and just by being with them is a blessing, because those negativities, those confusions that you bring, all of a sudden become neutralized. the blessings of that, or the blessings of the rain, the blessings of the sun. It's the things that transform from confusion, from negativity, into positiveness, and maybe it's a neutralizing, that it no longer becomes a dualistic thing. It just becomes all one. It becomes all the same. And then another point that's being made is the metaphorical language. And through study, and not just reading these books, but other books that, talk about these kinds of things, whether it's Buddhism or it's Christianity or it's Judaism or it's Islam or whatever, to see the way the metaphors are used to be able to experience or to explain experience in the human realm and so on. So to be able to recognize metaphor. And then the other one was audience and witness, the unfolding of the Dharma. Audience, listening to the Dharma and witnessing the Dharma, seeing the unfolding of Dharma. The Dharma is the teaching of the Buddha. And to be able to see how that is. The Dharma is not exclusively taught by the Buddha. There's Buddha Dharma, but Jesus talked about that which we would call Dharma, and Muhammad did, and Moses did. All these great, leaders, spiritual leaders, and everything were all speaking about it in their own terms. So to see that there is an audience and a witness to be able to understand the unfolding of truth, if we replace the word Dharma with truth. And then there's a confirmation of enlightenment. Well, what is enlightenment? Is it something that we've fabricated? Is it just another one of the concepts that human beings make? Or is there a true enlightenment? Is there a confirmation of that? And, are we opening ourselves up to be able to personally verify that or disqualify that through our own experience? And that's the invitation. That's the invitation of the Buddha. The Buddha said, don't take anything I say for granted. Experience it all yourselves. Test it. Check it out. So the confirmation of the Dharma. And then praise and homage. The importance of being able to be in a group and being able to share and being able to say, yes, this makes sense. No, let's talk more about this other subject or something like that. Praising what we're doing and having a homage to it, a respect for it and so on. We may not agree now. We may not understand it yet. But yet to still, not denigrate it and not say, well, I may not be ready for that element of knowledge, of wisdom. It hasn't arisen up within me yet, but yet I have respect for you because you're talking about it, and I'll give you, if no other word, the benefit of the doubt, and I'll wait until it percolates up within me. And then there's the cosmic harmony. Because what's being invoked here are the galaxies and so on like that, and this cosmic harmony, and that we're all part of. We're all stardust. To use what Carl Sagan would say, we're all made up of the same material, stardust, and so on. And this is all the illusory body. This is all the conceptual body. This is the intellect, looking at what all this is and giving designations of what this means, these imputations of what this means and so on like that. But and to be able to see it in its as illusory in its emptiness, but at the same time to recognize that in the philosophy of Buddhism, this is the display of absolute reality, absolute truth, absolute bodhicitta. However, and it's indescribable. but yet, to be able to say, okay, this is part of that, and all this is beyond our human conception of how it came to be, and exactly what we're going to do with it, except that we can behave in a manner that is congruent with it, that flows with it, that harmonizes with it, and that is not a disharmony to it. That we find the right way to be able to move with the tides, to be able to move with the current, and to flow with that. And we find that as we do that, we have peace. When we start swimming against the tide, life gets very difficult. But if we flow with it and learn how to navigate with those whirlpools and eddies and so on like that, and still water, we become at peace with it. So these are bullet points that came out of the Gemini thing. So, and I think it's beautiful. So, Kunga, what do you think? I always like to ask Kunga.
Thanks, Lance. You know, for me, some of the things that were the most interesting were the more simple things. It's interesting to hear the story behind the Buddha deciding what type of bowl he should take his offerings in, and wanting to choose a bowl that didn't offend anybody, that was providing him with different choices, but then feeling like he also wanted to choose the appropriate type bowl based on how he saw his role in society. So he ended up, I think, with the stone bowl. And it was interesting to me. I had heard before that when someone becomes a monk, honey is a good gift for them. And so to hear that the merchants gave the Buddha honey as one of the offerings was seems like goes back to that tradition, maybe traces it back to something like this story. So yeah, I think, thank you.
So you're pointing out the relevance of the gift giving, the offerings, and practicality and simplicity.
Yeah, I mean, even when the Buddha is saying to the merchants, may they have blessings in every direction, I kind of feel like that for me that reminds me of the teaching that, if you're a student, everything can be a teacher. And if you're following the Dharma, you can see the Dharma everywhere, and you can see everything, and your experience is a blessing of the Dharma.
Thank you. So, Aaliyah, would you like to make some more comment?
I think it was a good discussion, actually. I'm not sure if I have anything more to say, but it's been really interesting hearing everyone's comments and kind of getting the high points like you brought in this evening. So, yeah, it's a very timely, resonating chapter 24 Sutra section. So I'll go back and read the rest of it, and then I feel like I'll have like a better idea of like what it was all about. So, yeah. Thank
Very
you.
good. You're welcome. Thank you. And maybe, if you have time to go back and look at the YouTubes and
Oh, yeah.
because the conversations we have are really, really great.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
I know it takes time, but that's that's the focal point. That's it coming together.
Okay. Okay.
The greatest thing that we have is time, and if we use our time wisely, we grow in ways that we didn't expect that we could grow.
Right.
Alex, do you have any comments?
No, it was really interesting to hear everybody out today. I think in the end, I just I pointed out for myself here in the last verse that, well, we talked about start building a community and indeed, like this first acceptance of gifts. So the verses say, together with their companions, they went for refuge in the Buddha and the Dharma. So that before I used to think that only the five renunciates were the first students of the Buddha. But I think it says clearly here that there were people who were starting following Buddha before that, and yes, these are the lay people. These are I don't know what they meant here. Went for refuge in the Buddha and in the Dharma. It probably doesn't mean that they became monks, but in their minds, that was their refuge, at least, and their community and their companions. So I think that's observation that I another observation that I take in with me today.
Very good. Thank you.
Lance, I was gonna say, because we all are all lay practitioners, that it is so important that we have each other in this way, even though we're not all in the same city or same street. Because coming in and out of the real world or like our everyday lives, it's important that we have these touch points with each other to have the to share and stuff. So I just wanted to thank everyone for their time tonight in that way. Relative to this chapter, the theme of the chapter, like being coming out, and just wanted to thank everyone for their time and the discussion.
Certainly. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone is contributing here, so it's great.
Yes. While you were speaking, I was curious, that word that we on page, or rather on verse 24, 171.171, where it says, through this virtuous deed, you will become victorious ones known as Madhu Sambhava. You see that? So I said, well, Sambhava, I know. Sambhava means born, the born one. But Madhu, do you know what Madhu means? I just looked it up. It means sweetness or nectar. So born of the nectar. So it says that through this virtuous deed, you will become virtuous ones known as the nectar born one. So, and to sweeten up the world.
Thank you for doing, that's actually really thoughtful that you just did that translation. Thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I was wondering myself as I was staring at this just a few moments ago. That kind of helps underscore what was happening.
Uh-huh. So, okay, so I think, unless anybody else had anything else to say, we can do our dedications. But I think, this is really great. And next time we'll start chapter 25. It's relatively short. It's only 58 verses. So whether we can get through it in one reading, I don't think so. But nevertheless, it is about the Buddha now opening up to the gods a little bit more, and arriving in Deer Park, arriving at Varanasi and Sarnath. So it's getting ready to really the Sangha taking off. So if you got a chance to read it ahead of time, it'll be wonderful.
Okay.
All right. So any other comments or questions? All right. All right. Well, then, if you don't mind, I'll continue with the Yumze. And here, if we go to page, if you have your red book, your prayer book, and you go to page 33, is the Kagyu lineage dedication prayer. So we'll do these dedication prayers, and they're a little bit repetitive, but it's reinforcing the positive nature of prayer. So we're paying homage to the great masters who came before, and then we're paying homage to bodhicitta and to our lama, to our teacher, and so on like that. So it becomes self-explanatory as we go along. Dorje Chang, Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dormo Gampopa, Pagmadrupa, and Lord Kompa. Please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessing of all the Kagyu Lamas. By this virtue may I achieve omniscience. By defeating all enemies, confusion, may all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activities spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. As Manjushri, the warrior, realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all the merit for all sentient beings. By the blessing of the Buddha, who attained the three kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, by the blessing of the indivisible Sangha order, may the merit I share bear fruit. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate word of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Trikompa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious kind root and lineage lamas, divine assembly of yidams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yogins, Yoginis, and Dakinis, dwelling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the three times by myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana, and the innate word of virtue, not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Shravaka or Pratyeka Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors who harm, misleading Maras, and the hordes of demons, experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment, precious Buddhahood. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise even at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo. Om,
Om,
Ah,
ah,
Om.
Om,
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 Ah,
ah,
Om.
Om.
Om, Ah, Om. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body,
Body,
speech, and mind of all the enlightenments for the benefit of all sentient beings. Thank you all very, very much. Okay. See you all next week.
Thank you, Lance.
See you all.
Bye, Zara.
Thank you.
Hi, you guys.
Hi.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good to see everybody.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. Okay. Have a good night.